On today's episode of That Mental Ginger Show, we are talking to author Claire Miller. If I still did the Spotify episodes of That Mental Ginger Show, this would be going straight on because Claire has such a lovely voice, a very genuine, warm speaking voice. What it goes on YouTube, obviously, because I like the visual experience, but just shut your eyes and just listen to her speak. You could tell that she's got that type of author's presence and personality about her. She was absolutely lovely. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I enjoyed doing the interview. Let's cut to the intro.
All right, troops.
Claire, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast. How's your day been?
My day has been excellent, thank you. I've been working on getting some emails out for a workshop I'm running on the 16th of October, so I'm very pleased to have got that done.
Oh, wow. It's also my brother's birthday, so there we go. It's a good day. So what workshop are you running?
It's a children's story creating workshop in a place called Gavin's Mill, which is in Milngavie. They sell fair trade goods, gifts, and have a coffee shop. And it's a workshop where children can have fun and explore their creative side and just play with a soft toy, and it gets to zoom around the room and make up a story about the soft toy. Oh, it's great. I get to play with their imagination. It's magic. Then I give them activity sheets and they can create their own story in the way they want to, whether it's words or a picture or they tell me a story. And it's all about building up a child's confidence in themselves and their belief in themselves, and then they can take that confidence from here and take it into the rest of their lives.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
And that's kind of led us into what's going to be asking about your origin story, because the one thing we all have in common is an origins, and as you've just mentioned, you like stories. So, Claire, for my audience, please tell us your origin story.
Okay, my origin story is I started out, if you like, in Lenzie, which is a place just in the outskirts of Glasgow in Scotland. And I loved reading, always did do. I read Pride and Prejudice when I was at school, and in first year we had to write a review of our book, and I wrote a review of Pride and Prejudice, which is quite a lot of twists and turns in that book. So
just a bit.
And I remember the teacher being looking a little bit surprised that was the kind of book that I'd chosen. I carried on reading, and then when I was in my teens, I read things like The Famous Five and A Dog Going for an Adventure. And I wrote, yes, I love those books. And I wrote a story called The Ringo Bells Mystery, which was based on that kind of format. So and that was the only other piece of writing I did at that time in my life was to get my English higher. Second go round, I wrote a story. Because it was the only thing I liked on the exam paper. So I got my English higher. And then I went off to college, got married, had kids, and then I thought, right, I want to pursue my writing again, and I started evening class in creative writing, and I've never looked back. I kept making notes and everything. That was 2001 I took that writing class. And then in 2016 my dream came true. My bucket list, I had a book, so this is my first book here. It's called Pure Human City.
Oh, brilliant. I was hoping you would show off the books, because I could see the children's story one in the background as well, so I was like, you get to see them.
So that's my first book. It's a novella. I thought, oh great, I've written a novel. I thought, 20,000 words, it's a huge number of words. And then someone said, oh no, a novel's 50,000. And I went, oh, okay then. Well, but as I say, Pure Human City is on my bucket list. It was like the one thing I want to do in my life is write a book, and I did. And then I thought, because I'd been working with children in the local primary school, in Craighead Primary School, that I worked with the kids where I played a game with them where, I don't know, you might remember this one. You take a bit of paper, and the first third of the paper, you draw a head, and then you fold the paper down. And then you pass the paper to the left to the right, and then you draw draw the body and fold it down and then pass it around, and then you draw the legs. So I did this, I played this game with the kids, and they created the character, and then we talked about what the character liked and disliked, and I just sort of said, what do you think happens in the story? I fed everything they said back to me, back to them, and drew me a picture, and I took all the information home and wrote the story, and I gave them all a book.
That's brilliant.
Yes, yeah. It was tremendous fun.
Oh, wow.
I get to play with kids' imaginations. It's just like nothing like it. And I had 4 stories at home which I'd been reading to my younger daughter. And I thought, because some of the kids kept coming back to my sort of like skill sessions, called skill sessions in the school, I'll put them in a book. So I went and published this book here. This is called I Can Create Stories.
Yep.
And this is a book where they can read a page of text, children can read a page of text, and then they get to actually draw actually on the page as well. So I can show you this here, what it looks like.
Yeah, so, please do.
Yeah. So you've got the text here.
Yeah.
And then you've got the blank page here.
Oh, wow.
So that the child get to actually create their own story. They can draw in the book.
Yeah.
And it's only lately that I've realised actually that's quite a special thing, because most books people say, adults say you can't draw in the book.
I know. And then you're breaking that stereotype because you're going, says who?
And then there's prompts at the very back, so you can see a paint palette and then a plane there.
Yeah. Wow.
And then the children can create their own stories again in whatever way they choose. And I record an audiobook for it too. So that means you can actually use lots and lots of senses. And it also means that if there's a child who, like say they're dyslexic or visually impaired, they like stories but they don't access them the way that you traditionally do, like she's reading words, you can listen to them too, because listening to stories is, you get a different sense of a story rather than actually reading it. Yeah,
because I was going to ask you if you did do like audiobooks, because your voice is really good. It's really soft. It's it's nice and calming. It's a voice that I could listen to in an audiobook, and wouldn't get bored of it, because it's got that nice kind of ebb and flow to it. I can understand why kids would really like it as well. It's very soft and it's comforting as well. So I'm really glad that you're doing that. So so what's on the horizon for you for the next books? Because I know you're like any other creative. We're always looking for to try and do the next thing, aren't we?
Well, next book. Well, actually, I've got a novel out to reviewers. I wrote it in my spare time last year.
Yeah.
I wrote every night, and this story said, right, you're starting here, and what I normally do is I write it down on a pen and paper, and then I put it into a computer, and then I check that what I've got the type pages on the written page, and I go through that, and then I write the next bit. And this book said, no, you're not allowed to do any of this. You've just got to keep writing me, because it had so much energy, and I've never written anything like it in my whole life. It's just amazing. So in 2 months, I wrote every evening, and then I went to type it up, and I thought, now I know why it took so long to get in, because it was 60,000 words.
Wow.
And I went, oh, that'll be another novel then.
And that just shows how far that you've come as well in your own writing process, because the first one, like you said, you wrote was 20,000?
20,000, yes.
And they said, it should be about 50,000, and now you're 10,000 over. So it just shows how your confidence is growing in the space here with your writing as well. And that's fantastic. Are you going to self-publish that as well, or are you going to try and go down the kind of proper publishing route? What's your preferred method, so to speak?
I think my preferred method would be self-publishing. What I like about self-publishing is that you have an awful lot more control over the whole process, and also that I keep all the royalties as the author and the publisher.
Wow.
So if you do traditional publishing, the publisher will take their cut of whatever your royalties are. So let's say you started out with £5. If you've got an agent, they'll take their cut. If you've got the publisher, they'll take their cut, and then you get whatever's left.
Yeah.
And self-publishing does mean you have to have money up front, and it's not for everybody. And I've always self-published, so yeah, I suspect I'm just going to stay this way.
Yeah. So do you like self-publish through like your own website? Do you self-publish through like sites like Amazon or whatever? Because just that side of it's always kind of fascinating me about the self-publishing route. I know many people that have done it, but I like to always hear about the process behind it.
Yeah, I met people, two people, Kim and Sinclair MacLeod. They run Indie Authors World, who help people like me self-publish their books. So I had a contract with them, and I've had a contract with them for all 4 of my books, because I've showed you 2. I've got 4 published, and they will take your manuscript. It's not a story anymore. It's a manuscript.
Did you ever feel like when you got to that stage, you had to go,
well, it's kind of like official. I mean, it's like a manuscript. It's like quite posh, really. And then they help you find an editor, and they help you get the numbers that back in the book, which is called ISBN numbers, which for anyone who doesn't know, they're unique numbers to every single book. And then they'll take your book, and then they do all the magic and they put it together. So if I show you, this is my 4th book, which definitely is a novel.
Oh, like, yeah. Have you got the first book for comparison, so we can see that, so like the viewers can see the difference between the 2?
There you go.
Well, there you go. That right there is a visual representation, everybody, of how far Claire has come along in their writing journey.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't even need to have worried about the origin story part. You could just went from here to here. Done.
Yes.
It would have been a very short interview, mind, but that's amazing how far you've come.
Thank you. It's just, yeah. You see, I look at this one and I kind of go, but it looks like a real book. I mean, it seriously looks like a real book, and I'm kind of pinching myself because I can put it on my bookshelf here or anywhere else, and I can slot it beside other books, and it looks like a real book. And it's like, oh, wow.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. I've got to ask, do you have the thing in the cover where you've got like the picture of yourself with the kind of bio underneath, kind of staring at the middle distance look?
No, not quite. I do have that's the picture I've got in the back of that book there.
Oh wow. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That must fill you with some pride as well. Like you say, if you go to that bit, it's just about the author, and there's your picture, and there's your story as well, and you're like, that's me. I did it.
Oh, do you know what? It's amazing, because in Pure Human City, I was asked, do you want to have your picture in the back of the book? And I went, no, you're all right. Yeah, it's fine. When I got to I Can Create Stories, I'm going, of course, here's a picture.
Yeah. So like the first time you're like, oh, I'm not sure, and then the third time you're like, everything's ready. Here you go.
Well, actually, yes. And in the choice, I was lucky enough that I've been meeting a lot of people when I've been networking, and I've actually been able to meet some of them in person, not just down a camera lens. And one of them is a photographer, and when we were out walking, she took a photograph and very kindly said I could use that photograph in the back of the book. So I had a professional photographer take my photographs.
That's absolutely brilliant. It's all those little things that just put that smile on the face, and I can tell that's the same with you. You're like, it's like I had an official photographer, and then like I've had my official bio. Look at the difference between the sizes of the books. And just seeing the smile on your face when you talk about it, it just shows the passion that you've got, and it's great to see that. You're just so genuine and so lovely, I've got to say. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
So we talked briefly about like the workshop you've got on the 16th. How did the workshop idea come about? What to kind of progress, from, I'm guessing from what you've done with the story, what they create in children's stories, and then turn it into a workshop. How did that come about?
I suspect it came about primarily from working with the kids in Craighead Primary School. I then went on to working in going into other schools and working with the kids. What I did originally was I would take, say, I Can Create Stories, and there's 4 stories in this. So I then took one of the stories and I read it to them, and then I said, right, here are some activity sheets actually, I took the sheets out of the back of the prompt sheets out of the back of I Can Create Stories. And then as I did more workshops, it morphed into, here I've got this cuddly toy, and I had a bee and a robot going across a room on a roller coaster at one workshop. So they went up, down, down, round and round, and there. And then someone said, "Can you do it again?" And I went, "Okay." Get to the side of the room. Now they went up, down, round, 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 down. There we go. And I went, "Oh, whew." I remembered what they did. So all my workshops, they just change each time I do it, because I always learn something when I work with kids. The workshop, I ran a workshop in Gavinsmill in August this year, and the lesson from there was, someone said, one of the kids said, "But I'm stuck, I don't know, I can't work on this sheet first." And I went, "You can do the sheets in any order you want." I went, "Right, okay." Next time I say to people, "These are the sheets, these are the order I normally do them in, but if you wish to do them in a different order, that's fine."
There you go. Well, that's something that's always good to see, learning and progression as well, like not just from the kids, but from yourself.
Yes.
Well, and you've always said there's different things that you've learned, but has there ever been like a consistent thing that when you've delivered the workshops that the kids have either requested or picked up on, something that you're like, "Oh, that must be like my kind of like my golden nugget, the thing that everybody picks up on"?
I think what I'm always learning, if you like, my golden nuggets are how to relate to each child, because I have a maximum of 8 in a group. I think that's just the right size, so that everyone can be involved and you can give everyone attention, because more than that, it's not quite like crowd control, but there's more people.
And I've got twins, I understand the crowd control.
And I want each child to have as much fun that they can get out of it, because each child is different. For example, at the workshop that I ran in August in Gavinsmill, I had one boy who just knew what he was doing. He just went, "This is my idea," and I went, "Off you go with it." A couple of girls who just sat there like this, chatted away and worked away. 2 or 3 others who just worked away, and there was one wee girl, and she was so shy. When she came in, she went, "My name is," and I went, "That's good. You should come and have a wee seat here." And I gave her the activity sheet. She said, I can't write anything. I said, "Well, can you draw me a picture?" And she drew me this beautiful picture. I mean, the detail was exquisite. And I said, "But I can't write a story." I said, "Can you tell me your story?" So she did. And I said, "Well, could you write that down?" And she did. And then a little bit later, this little hand crept up, and I went, "Okay, I'll go down and see." She obviously, she's obviously getting a lot braver, because during the time when we've been doing the story with the soft toy, she'd been enjoying it, but not actually giving any ideas or interacting. And she said, "I've thought of this," and she read me it, and I went, "So that's brilliant. Can you write your ending?" And then I went back again, and she read it to me, and her voice was louder. And her mum actually said, that the girl had really enjoyed it, and you could see that she'd been lifted.
Yeah.
And that's magic. That's the magic of creating stories.
It's something that I've noticed, like myself, like being a dad. When I started doing like my podcast and stuff, I asked my kids if they wanted to be on one of them, because we were talking about Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yes.
And they were so excited, because I basically filmed them watching an episode of the new Thomas, and I wanted their opinion on it because it's marketed for them.
Yeah.
So I just sat them down in my dining room with me and just asked them what they thought of it. I mean, some of it you can't understand because he's speaking, like Connor in particular, speaking so quickly. And I'm like, so I'm putting up a subtitle saying nonsensical gibberish you pretend to understand. But it's just like how excited he was, and he's very shy and introverted, kind of like myself. And the way he came to life when we were talking about it and like putting on his own wee show for the camera, I thought this is the Connor that I love to see.
Yes.
And watching Kieran do the reverse, he kind of went more introverted, but he was very calm and very soft spoken, but very sure of what he wanted to say and what he wanted to talk about. So we saw those different sides and come out. I'm like, where have these been in my kids? This is fantastic. So I get what you mean for it. It's like you being that kind of parent. every time we do a workshop and getting to see it and go, I did that.
Yeah, it's just being able to make a difference. And I can create stories, I put a review copy together just to make sure that it all worked the way I thought it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm writing, I begin to see what I think's on the page as opposed to what's actually on the page.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave it to daughter of my dentist, who was 8,
mm-hmm.
and I went, great, perfect, that's where the book's aimed at.
Yeah.
And apparently she enjoyed it so much, she rushed into school, and the dentist was saying she's normally very shy and reserved, but she rushed into school. So in my head, I had her going, Miss, look at this, look at this. And then she hand wrote me a thank you letter.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
and
brilliant.
She would she'd wanted to stay up all night to read the stories, and she'd buy my book for £1 million.
Oh, that's
And her
so
dad,
lovely.
And her dad said she doesn't have £1 million.
Yeah, but she's dreaming that she could, and if she would give you it. So there you go. Well, she's dreaming big. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, so one thing I've got to ask, like, because the idea that you've got, like, for the workshop and the idea you've had for the book is it's really unique. It's really engaging. What have you thought about doing something like that for, like, for adults, so to speak, in a similar vein? Because I've always said to people that I would like to write a book, but it's like I can talk about it. I could come up with the idea. Writing it down would be difficult for me. I used to love writing, and it's just something I've fallen out of the habit of.
Yep.
It sounds like something that would engage creatives like myself, who maybe want to do it but struggle with the words. Even if you don't think about it now, it might be something to consider, because it's what people like us love, what they learn by doing, the having the bit out and a bit for you to write about, or even just draw something out, and then having someone that can mentor it, because it doesn't need you're so well versed with how you speak and how you communicate. It wouldn't just be kids that would listen to you, adults would listen to you as well. I mean, if you ran it for me, if you run a pilot for it, sign me up.
Well, if you're interested, on the 11th of December in Milton of Campsie Village Hall, I am running a 1-hour story creating workshop for adults.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yes.
I will try and get a babysitter. Is it during the day or is it in the evening?
It's during the day.
Okay, then I should be fine. I'll just be like, okay, boss, taking the day off.
But I have run workshops for adults, because there are, and inside every adult there's a child. It's just that the adult might not believe that they can be that creative. And I ran my workshops in Milton Campsie in May for Mayfest, one for children and one for adults. And when in the adults workshop, one lady came along and she said, I'm an accountant, I don't have an imagination. And I went, okay. I said, but do you know what? I had this thought that we've got dogs, but the first dog we had as a puppy got lost one time, and I've often wondered what happened with that puppy and what the puppy thought. And I went, so you remembered it? This is, I'm getting the impression that she's had a lot of dogs. So I did exactly the same as I do with the kids. We had a soft toy, and it was zooming around the room, or up here or down there, whatever it was. Then I gave out the worksheets, and I talked them through, and then as a group they talked about what they'd written, and that created discussion. And the lady went away with a story, and do you know what was really lovely was she said, I'm now remembering my first dog again. And it's just right. I mean, that's amazing.
That sums it up in a nutshell. Like, it's something that's helped maybe keep the memory of, like, her first dog alive, but in a positive way, rather than thinking, maybe something bad had happened to it, or thinking about when it passed away. It's something that will keep the good memories of the dog alive.
Yeah.
That's something that's fantastic. Again, that kind of warm feeling comes from not just the kids, like what saying, oh look what I did, or how to write the thank you notes. It comes from the adults as well, that you've sparked that little bit of joy or that little bit of creativity in them that they may, like she said I'm an accountant, well, I don't have an imagination. I'd be like, well, you had enough of an imagination to come up with that self-deprecating joke, so it's in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same way like I do with my podcast clients. Like it's what the goal is to help people, but it doesn't matter what age they are.
Yeah.
So that's two of the things that you've got coming out. You've got one on the 16th of October. You've got one in December as well.
Yes.
So the book that's coming out, are we allowed any, or the ones that wait to review, are there any spoilers? Is there any exclusives you can give?
Any spoilers? Well, the novel that it's currently out to be people reviewing it, which is terribly exciting because then I get to find out whether what I wrote works or not. So I can read you. This is the blurb for the book that's gone out. It's called A Race Against Time.
Ooh.
Laura joins the staff team at the Paradise Hotel when she leaves her job at Sovereign Finances. After a hotel party for guests and staff, strange and confusing events begin to happen to her. As her life accelerates out of control, she fights to hold on to her grip of reality. A life or death situation forces her to decide who to put first, herself or another. What will the consequences of her decision be? How will she react to her choice?
Wow. That went straight into audiobook mode. Like I was just like, at one point I was like, I'm going to shut my eyes and just listen back to your voice. And it's just something that I could so see myself listening to. Yeah. What kind of engaging with. So if you had like kind of one piece of advice to give like anybody that's looking to create like a book, or they've created it but they're not sure about self-publishing, or they're like kind of on their journey, what would you say would be like your one piece of advice that you would give any author or any aspiring author?
Keep dreaming and keep going with it. Everyone can publish a book. If you've got a book which is written, get people to review it and then get it professionally edited.
Well,
it's really important that you get it edited, because writers or anyone doing anything that they're really passionate about, you get very close to it, and an editor points out things that you've got little writing habits and things you can pick up and learn about. So but keep going, keep dreaming. Never ever believe that you can't do it. And in fact, what I've always done is I actually, if you imagine this is an imaginary book here, every time I'm going to publish a book, I have my hands out like this and I can see the book in my hand. So I can actually see the book in my hand. And as well as the novel, which the blurb I've just read to you, I'm actually writing a series of books or beginning to called Serena's Adventure, because Serena's the penguin that guides the children and I can create stories. So this is Serena here.
Hey, well, me and my wife love penguins, so we're all for that. Because when we got married, like our wedding topper was a silhouette of two penguins.
Yeah, brilliant.
So there we go.
So, and those all Serena's adventures, because she's a very clever penguin, because she can write stories as well as do lots of different things.
There's penguins are very intelligent.
Absolutely. Well, and there's and the stories are based on the prompts out of the back of I Can Create Stories. And in front of me here, I told someone this in 2019, there's 10 to 12 of them on a table right in front of me, and I can see them. I just have to get to that point to get to do it. So you visualize it, believe it, and do it. If you don't know what to write, just put pen to paper. And if you're happy with your writing and someone says, but that's not right, listen to yourself, because remember, it's your story. And if you want it that way, that's the way it is. But do get a professional editor. It's a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. Because one of the things that you mentioned there was the writing habits that you have. And I always remember when I wrote stories, I would always have the word that. It would always pop up in sentences that I was doing like very, very frequently. And I would have to go back and maybe edit it out and edit out again as I was writing. So when I called my podcast That Mental Ginger Show, people were going like saying, "Oh, well, you got to check out the Mental Ginger Show," and I keep saying like, "No, it's That Mental Ginger Show." And like, what's the difference? I'm like, because the word "that" is a reminder to how a lot of these kind of creative things started with me.
Yeah.
It's like because people would always like look at my writing and be like, "He's used that again. He's used that again. He's used that again." So it was like my final like not like a screw you moment, but like it's a very Ron Seal type of title because I'm ginger, I have mental health issues, and I used to use the word that a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
So it was always my wee kind of my wee thing for it.
Yeah.
So we are starting to come up on time, and I'll ask you the final question that I ask all my guests because it is a mental health related podcast.
Yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice to anyone struggling with mental health issues at this point in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
My piece of advice would be to get it down on paper. Your thoughts, if you write. If you can't write, draw a picture of how you feel. If you don't want to do that, record something audibly and listen back to it, or get it, do speech to text to get it into words, because you're emptying your brain and you're thinking out loud, and you might just find the answer in what you're writing or creating as a story, a drawing, or an audio, recording.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant piece of advice. We've not expected anything less from such a great writer. So Claire, tell my audience where they can find you on like a website, socials. Like I always say, sell, baby, sell.
Okay, my website is www.clairemillerauthor.co.uk. I am also on LinkedIn as Claire Miller Author, and I have a Facebook page, Claire Miller Author, and my contact details, my phone number and my contact email are on my website. If you put in Claire Miller Author into Google, I will pop up.
It's always the best place when you see yourself pop up in Google, you go, wow, that's how I know I've arrived. Like when you're not like in like page 3 or something after you're looking through, you're like, oh, I am at the top. Hey.
Yes.
It's always a good feeling, and that's the little feelings we always try and strive for.
Yes.
Claire, it has been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Like, when I met you at the networking event, I thought there's a story there, and I want to get to know her. And I'm so glad that I plucked up my own confidence to come over and speak to you, because it's been a great story and been great to speak to you.
Well, thank you for asking me to come along.
And until next time, my faithful followers, I've been Andrew Durnan. This has been Claire Miller. Check out our website, as she's mentioned, follow on LinkedIn, like the Facebook page, and until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.